bucolic and largely affordable, Walpole is just 25 miles south of Boston, making for an easy commute into the city or to catch a Pats game in Foxborough. There are 7 public schools, including 1 high school, boasting better than average MCAS scores. But if that sounds perfect for attracting young families, Walpole is pulling up the welcome mat. A major new housing development proposed off Moose Hill Road will only offer 1 and 2 bedroom units, effectively discouraging families from moving in. And that's just one technique being used by some dozens of cities and towns across eastern Massachusetts seeking to shut out more young families. And joining me now is Jennifer McKim, a reporter with the New England Center for Investigative Reporting. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi.
So this is just one technique. We're going to talk about others later on. But the idea is to build these rental units that are 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and anybody who has more than 1 kid or none, I suppose, they wouldn't want to live there if they had 3 children, for instance. And so they're paying into the tax base, but not draining the services of the town.
Exactly. So we have towns in Massachusetts struggling with dealing with resources. And so when a developer comes in and says, I want to build something, and he says, I want to build 2 or 3 bedrooms, they just get this sense from the town like, no, because the more bedrooms you have, the more kids are in the schools, and the towns are then struggling with it. So basically they use all different types of pressure, either zoning or just influence, to say, really, if you want this thing to get through, then you need to scale it back. And that's what happened in Walpole. The developer got the idea. Now he's presenting a proposal that says 1 and 2 bedrooms. That way it'll be more plausible to the town.
So the town residents themselves are genuinely in favor of this because it means less crowding in the school system. There's 7 schools in Walpole, but only 1 high school. And as we all know, building a new high school, they just had an override in Walpole, but it's not enough to build a new high school.
Exactly. So, I mean, they're trying to deal with what they have. Everybody doesn't have a lot of money right now, and struggling with a new town with that much, it makes sense. But what you have is a problem where you have this happening over and over around the state, where towns and cities, for whatever reasons, are putting restrictions, either limiting the amount of bedrooms in a multifamily, or doing other age restrictions where they're limiting the age in a community, basically to keep the families out. And that makes it hard on communities and people who, as we know, Massachusetts is a very expensive place to live, and this makes it much harder for families to find a foothold into communities.
I'm going to bring Clark Ziegler into the conversation now. He's the executive director of the Massachusetts Housing Partnership, a nonprofit that advocates for affordable housing. Well, Clark, I don't know, I guess I've been living under a rock because I did not realize that cities and towns can do this, that you can put up whole housing developments that are age restricted, 55 and over. In fact, there was one incident where they tried to do 50 and over, that, oh, no, it's got to be 55. That way, pretty much assuring that no one's going to have school-age children. I mean, how is that legal? How is that not discriminatory?
It's not a new phenomenon. There's been a state law, zoning law on the books for some time that makes a provision for over 55 housing. I think the thinking originally was that the needs of older residents are different than those for families, and I don't think there was any intent originally to exclude families. And by the same token, as I understand it, the federal fair housing law allows age-restricted housing. Both policies, I think, very well intended. I think what's happened under fiscal pressure, towns have taken advantage of those policies to push back and minimize or eliminate the number of units that are accessible to families of school-age kids, and that has economic consequences for the whole Commonwealth.
So now it is intentional. You know, one of the pushback on for instance, the Walpole thing is that they're saying that people the people that are overhoused, like the elderly, for instance, might sell their houses, and then a new inventory will come on the market. So this is actually creating a good situation for people who are empty nesters and that kind of thing.
Well, the thing is, I don't think all the time that old people actually want to move into some of these places. 55, by the way, it's not that old, as we all know, young, really, and people want to stay in place generally. So it's not really opening up that many opportunities, and it's closing them for other families.
So, Clark, this is pretty widespread. According to the report by the ACIR, it's about 96 cities and towns of Massachusetts have buildings that either restrict the ages or restrict the number of bedrooms that can be built in order to keep, well, basically young families out.
Yep, that's correct, and that's been our experience as well.
Yeah. And, I mean, are you fighting it?
Well, one thing that's changing is we, among state agencies that are involved with Chapter 40B, the state's affordable housing law, we are at work developing a policy that would require at least some family-sized units in all new rental developments utilizing the law. We think there hasn't been a clear state policy in that regard, and we are well on our way to putting one in place.
Can you say when that might happen?
It should happen this fall. It's been actively discussed by the agencies. We all see this as a problem and want to really clearly express a state preference and state policy.
But clearly residents in most of these cities and towns are going along with it because it benefits them. They get the tax base without having to come up with extra services. Interesting dilemma, right? Clark Ziegler, thanks so much for coming. Jennifer McGinn.
Thank you.